5 project ideas to learn web development. Hello guys, my name is Festus and today we'll be talking about 5 project ideas to learn web development. Today we'll be talking about the projects that you can use to learn web development. Now, these projects are not purposely aimed at, entry-level developers, people who have never touched programming in their life, or intermediates, or it's aimed at, it's something that anyone can use, whether you just started learning or you're 6 months into the journey, or you're probably even working 5 years, since these are projects that I think you can slap in new technologies on and they work fine. Now, I'm not sure if you know this or don't, but I'm just going to say this now. Web development is structured into 3 parts. And briefly, I'm just going to explain what they are: front-end development, back-end development, and full-stack development. Now, with front-end development, you're building the user interface, which is what the user sees, the buttons that the user clicks, the pictures, and all of those. With back-end development, you're building everything that has to do with data manipulation, so authorization for a user to be able to log in and be logged in into his or her own account and be able to see his or her own profile. And with full stack development, you're doing what the 2 others can do alone. Moving on, the projects that I think you can use. Now, these are the projects that I pretty much think has everything you need to get hired in the industry. The first one is one-page responsive websites. So why is it called one page? I'm going to explain what this is. If you look at small businesses these days, they use something that is not so complex as it was back in the day. Back in the days, when you click on, say, contact us, it takes maybe 2 to 3 seconds to load before you see the contact page. But now it is really fast because we have one-page websites in modern day times. What is it now? So if you click on, say, services, it doesn't take you to a different page entirely. Instead, the page scrolls to the part where you have services, as you can see. And what is a responsive web page? Responsivity pretty much means a web page that would work on every device regardless of the size. So you need to start learning how to build web pages that can scale up to something that is really big, a screen that is so big, something like a projector, and also a screen that is as small as, say, an iPod, something like that. Yeah, so that's that. So moving on still on web pages, you need to learn how to build multi-page websites. Unlike one-page websites, with multi-page websites, you're pretty much building almost the same thing. The only difference in this case is, instead of when the user clicks contact us and the page scrolls down to that section, the user is being redirected to another page still on the same site that has the details for the contact us and everything. Moving on, guys, number 2 on the list is a to-do list. Now, a to-do list, everyone, I've watched videos where people say, okay, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do this, and to-do list is not something every beginner should learn, and all of those. Well, yeah, that could be kind of like frustrating, since everyone doing tutorial is pretty much doing to-do list. But being honest, I disagree with the idea that this is not something you should do, because pretty much, like, I learned the first project I built was a to-do list, and from a to-do list I could move up to something even way more complicated because I had the opportunity to do every other thing I had to do with ease. Now, a to-do list uses everything you'll be doing with web development or software development in general, which is adding, creating, reading, and deleting. So with a to-do list, you're pretty much giving the user a functionality to add items, delete items, move items across if you want them to be able to have this functionality. Calling it a to-do list doesn't exactly mean that is what it is. You could rename it to an itinerary, you could rename it to a shopping list, whatever. It is your business. So this is something you can build as an entry-level developer, or even something complex, because these days we have something like, changing the color theme of the page, like making it dark theme or bright. So 4 months into your learning, you can add language translation where the person can, switch to, say, English, and they see the instructions or options on the page on English, the person can switch to French, and they see the buttons showing, instead of add, it's showing what add is in French and stuff like that. And I think it's really an awesome project to start with. The next one on the list is a Notes app. Well, a Notes app is pretty much like a to-do list. The only difference in this case is instead of giving the user the option to add a particular text, you're giving the user the option to add a title and a description, and also an option to segment them. So I want to write a blog post, for instance. I'm able to create one blog post, the title, go into the blog post and add a bunch of text into that, step out, add another and another, and so on. Number 3 on the list is a blog. Some people call it blog app. Well, it is an application because it does something that is dynamic. Well, with a blog, it is almost like a multi-page website. The only difference in this case is it has back end and front end. Well, if you're a front end developer, you don't necessarily need to have the back end built by yourself. You could use something like WordPress or some other CMS to do this and focus on your part, which is writing the code for the user interface. And you're pretty much building a multi-page website again, like I said. So the user is able to go on to the home page, see all the blog posts, or search the categories, click on the particular post they want, and it gets redirected to the main page that has all the descriptions, including the text, the title, and so on. The next one is something you can build whether you're a beginner, intermediate, professional, master, or whatever the word is for someone who has 1 to 3 years experience in the industry. So and that is e-commerce website. So this is something you can build as a front-end developer and know how e-commerce works using something like Shopify. And with Shopify, you're not doing the back end, but you can actually build a team, which is the front end, and put it there to use to host like some e-commerce websites. As a back-end developer, you can also do something like this. With e-commerce websites, you're able to do pretty much everything you need, which includes changing the currency, changing the language, and so on. The possibilities are endless. That's it. Thank you and see you next week.